didn't. Okay. Now, does it seem like we're recording now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry.
yeah, no, thanks for that. I didn't know it was a two-step process. You just hit the record button and, you know, but but we have three speakers today. Tri Dong will speak first, and he's with SLAC, National Accelerator Laboratory. Brandon Wright with AIG will be speaking second, and his conversation is mainly about the actuary camp that we will be having for during the winter time, and the process of how to hopefully get into the internships, the summer internships for AIG, and how that can turn out into a career option for you guys. And Jordan Chappell with his group from Hewlett Packard Enterprise will be starting around 3:40. And as I mentioned earlier, that is going to be a Q&A session. So please, please, please bring questions. Please have questions ready. Be ready to be interacting with the group, okay? And when you do this, also, please turn your cameras on, unmute yourselves if you have a question. If you're not answering questions, please keep yourself muted, because a lot of times there'll be, you know, background noise, and we don't know, we forget every now and again, okay? And that can kind of disrupt the discussion. Around 4:15, I was hoping that we would have our fourth speaker, who is also alumni, and he is a pilot. He flies various airlines here. And I was hoping that he'd be able to speak, but I think not, because I think he's probably flying right now. But as I mentioned, hopefully I'll get some information from him and maybe post it on the website if he's not able to participate. And lastly, we should have our Palm Epsilon induction ceremony around 4:35. As I mentioned, we may be able to move that up around 4:15 if everyone is here during that time, if Clayton is not able to speak. And if not, if they come in around 4:35, we can still have about a 15-minute break if that's necessary, okay? So I'm done talking. Let's welcome Tri. Clap, clap, clap.
Hello, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me. So I'm in California, so we still have to have a mask on when we're at work, so I cannot take them off. So you cannot see my face, but I'm currently in the control room of a Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. We do really, really cool science here. My primary job is I work in a operational facilities where we get to drive the beam, we make the electron beam, and then eventually we're gonna convert that to photon beam, and we can do really, really fancy science with that. I mean, it's basically a really fancy camera. If you could understand, you can take a snapshot of things that really, really tiny. We talk about in atomic size. And luckily we're on day shift right now, so a lot of action going on. So I can show you like around what's around here. Like we can have like people, physicists in the background, and they can do all the stuff here. So we have like 3 machines, and now 2 is running. So on this side is LCLS is the coherent LINAC, and then you have the facet, which they do the weight field research on this side. But I'm gonna go away to let them do this stuff so I can talk to you guys. So let me hit some of the bullet point that Ms. Tai sent to me on step taking apart my current position. So I start out as a T-Houston alumni. I was a teacher, but through that, I was a noise scholar, so I get opportunity to do internship through various subnational labs. And from there, also as an undergrad, you can also be an intern at all of our 17 national lab sites within the country. So if you're an undergrad, please don't graduate too early. It's not like, oh yeah, it's like your timeline, to hit this timeline to graduate. Being a undergrad is like a great way to plan internship, and that's how you're gonna land a job. And let's see, how do I find these positions? So luckily with T-Houston as a noise scholar, you be able to apply to a STAR program called a student teacher research assistant. I can't finish all the names, it's been too long, but it will find what you like to do, what lab you want to go through, and that's how I get started. And then through that, I get to go to different national lab and learn what they do. So as an undergrad, I interned at 4 national lab, well, 3. Um, my first time is at SLAC, and then my second time was at Brookhaven National Lab in New York. My third time is at the Pacific Northwest in Washington. And then my fourth time, I love SLAC so much, so I want to come back for the second time or the fourth internship. And by the time I got him, like, okay, this is the place. I love this place so much. I really want to work here. So I decided to asking people, like, is there a way I can stay here forever and not be an intern forever? So that's how I got the position. So my advice is to try every shoe. You go to the shoe store, right? You try on many shoes, and you're trying to find the one that fit you. Because I go to other lab, I feel like, oh, the environment is weird here, but I go back here twice for a reason, and I decide to stay here for the rest of my life for a reason too, because it's really great. These people are great. And let's see. What opportunity did you take? Right, and also how far I get to here is that I never turn down any offer, any internship opportunity. Like if Miss Tai sent out an email, hey, apply to this, like I'd be the first one to, like, yes, I'm gonna look at this and apply to this. Doesn't matter if I have a chance to get it or not. I'm just gonna apply, and we'll see, how it's gonna turn out. And not just that, you have to look for other opportunities as well. And maybe it's not, the position that you want. It doesn't mean that it cannot lead to where you want. Having experience more than just going to school, in my opinion, because it makes you much more versatile, and it makes you be able to adapt to changes. People don't look for people like company or place where I work now. They don't look for people that have master's degree or PhD. They look for people that be able to adapt to changes and pick up things fast and be able to pick up anything at any time. That's what people look for. So if you could, maybe it's not the job that you want, but that's the start. Maybe that job leads to something else. The experience that you gain there lead to something else. So that's my advice. Never turn down any opportunity come to your hand. Perspective on life beyond the degree. You, to me, and the nature of my job, as an operator here, we like a Swiss Army knife. We have to know pretty much everything. Everything from physics, accelerator physics, mathematics, computer science, coding, safety, writing procedure, anything. We have to, like, being a teacher, train you to write lesson plan, which transcribe to writing procedure. Studying mathematics teach you how to solve logic puzzle, which is what's coding. Coding is just another language that you can talk to a computer. That's a skill set that you can build upon by yourself. And then, and while you're there, and while you're at where you are, you want to continue learning, pick up at many projects that you can, even though, if you don't get paid for it, you don't not compensate for it, that's fine, but you are learning, right? And you don't, and until one day, you don't even have to, introduce who you are. They can just see the work that you've been worked on, and it's like, oh, who's been working on this? Oh, this guy. And then they come to the controller, like, who's this guy? Like, oh, you that guy. And then they start just stealing you from where you work, and like, hey, come work for me. It actually happened the other day. So it's about how much effort you put in, and people will see it. And the more effort you put in, the more thing you have to learn, and that make you stand out within your group. And then because we have a team here, right? You don't work for yourself, you work for the team, but you are in the team. So you're basically working for yourself as well. So it's okay to put in extra time because you're working for yourself, and you're also working for the team. So that's my perspective. Okay, there's some other thing here. I hope, am I doing good on time? Okay.
You're doing very well on time.
Okay. What's my role as the company decision like? So right now, so I have a really crazy schedule. Luckily, we have this meeting on a day shift. Normally, I would be on like, I can work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 4 p.m. to midnight and midnight to 8 a.m. So like last week, I was working like from midnight to 8 a.m. because the problem is the accelerator run 24/7. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of people, a lot of time to turn the machine off and turn it back on again. And every time we turn it back on and off, it's really hard to reproduce what we had before. Like in the ideal world, oh yeah, to turn it on, turn it off, it should be no problem, right? But in the real world, it's really hard to replicate like a really good run and we turn it off and we come back, oh, this is like, oh crap. And we have to like tune it up again. So it takes a lot of time. So we run 24/7 and then like during summer, we turn it off and we do some maintenance or stuff like that. Because in the summer, it's really hot and the temperature changes in California. It's really weird because like at like nighttime, it get really cold, and then and then during the day, it get really hot again. So temperature stability is really really critical when we're running particle accelerator. Um, and every day here we usually go into the control room, which I showed you before. We have a bunch of these monitors and computer that we monitor the machine. We tune it up. So what I mean by tuning is that we have a bunch of magnets that run around. Well, Miss Tai, can I do screen sharing?
Yes. Okay, let me see. I may have to make you.
Oh, you can make me the host, co-host.
Make you co-host, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Do you have the option to screen share now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's do it.
Okay. I have this thing where it's preventing me from doing it up to.
What thing?
This. Oh, okay. Allowed. Oh, really? Okay. Let's see if it works now. Ah, yes. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, cool. So if you look at the picture in the middle here, so this is what our accelerator look like. It's 2 miles long. Like this is really long. Like you can see it running like underneath a highway here. So we are sitting in around right here. So we're using the last third of the 2-mile accelerator to run our CLS, which is called the linear coherent light source. And it's about, they start from here and it go all the way down here. And facet is where they do the plasma wave field research. And then later on, we're gonna have the LCLS2, which is, I would say about 1,000 times better than what we have now. So right now we can produce about 120 pulse per second, but later on, we can do up to 1 million pulse per second. Until now, it's still, I cannot wrap my head around how crazy that is. It's, I don't know if it's gonna work, but that's gonna be turned on next year, like in either spring or summer this year. But like right now, we try to get all the safety stuff done before we can even turn on the machine. Let me go up to this picture here. So this is the last layer. So we start out the injectors. That's where the drive laser start. And when you have that drive laser, it's gonna start hitting a cathode. I think it's made out of gold or copper, and that's gonna strip off some electron. And that electron gonna get accelerated through this linac called a linear accelerator. So we have a bunch of klystron with basically an amplifier, a microwave amplifier. So it's just like basically a kitchen microwave, but like 10 times faster, better. So you can make popcorn in like half a second with these. So you can accelerate these electrons, and when it get to the undulator, that electron get dumped, and we're only interested in the photon. So when the electron go through this magnetic field lattice, it's gonna undulate up and down. And when that process happens, it's called the Sassi process. And then that electron start to emit photons. So we're gonna dump that electron. We don't want the electron anymore. We just want the pure photon that we create called FEL, or free electron laser, which is just photon. And with that photon, we send it to the experiment hall. And that's when scientists and user can come in and they can use these beams that we just created to do some experiment that they want to study. And I think the most impacting that we did here recently is finding the protein sequence or the DNA sequence of the coronavirus, and see what it actually looked like. And also the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is also being produced, being researched here as well. And these users, these scientists, they can come into our lab and they can do all this experiment free of charge, as long as they get selected. Because like each year, there's hundreds of proposals being sent to our lab, and we can only accept 20% of those proposals. So if your project is like, yeah, this is what we want, it's gonna make an impact in the world. Yes, you're gonna get to come here and use our beam for free. And we have people like me, like, working around the clock to produce this beam, deliver these beam to scientists and users that want to come in and use. As long as you publish everything and make sure that everyone can benefit from your research. I want to show, this is an old picture on the left here. So these are a bunch of undulators, but I think these are really old. I don't know if I can find a better pictures for you guys. I don't think I can find any, but okay. Typical day look like. It's always crazy because every day is not the same, because we have different user every day. We also running at different energies every day. And some people asking for certain things. So we have to know coming in and see what the state of the machine is like. And then so we have to know what the user wants, then we can produce the beam that they need. And there's always problem going on. And sometimes it's just like a zoo in here. There's so many machine running, so many problems happen. So it's so you come in, you have no idea what's going on, and then you have 5 minutes or to 10 minutes to make sure that you can solve these problems. So that's why I'm trying to say that be able to adapt and learn new things as fast as you can. That's what I think every company or every employer looking for, is to be able to make decisions and pick up things as fast as you could. Personal company goal objectives. I don't know. I guess we're not a company. That's the best part. We don't make any money here. We use the tax people money here. So I basically pay for my own paycheck. So but the lab is really funny because I have two bosses. I work for Stanford University and I work for the DOE, the Department of Energy, and they both paid me. And I get a raise 2 times a year because I have two bosses, which is nice. It's weird, but it's cool at the same time. And yeah, and we're not really a company, we're not really academic, we're in like a sweet spot, like a gray area. I have no deadline, I have none of that. Like I can work on side project if I want. So right now I'm like writing code and GUI and display, so we can operate these machines. And I can do that on my own time. And if I'm not operating the machine, I would do that. So yeah, our goal is to do cool science, I guess. Job internship opportunity. As I mentioned before, you can, so one thing, you should go to the Department of Energy laboratory internship, just like go to Google DOE National Lab internship, type that in, it's like the first thing you should see. And then because that one application linked to 17 other labs. So it's just one application and you get to choose which lab you want to go. For SLAB, they accept about, I think like 500 people apply and they only accept like 25 to 30. So very selective. I'm just fortunate to be selected. I don't know why they choose me in the first place, but I don't know.
You know why they chose you in the first place.
But yeah, I wish I had more time to show you everything, but this way is really cool. If you have a chance, you should apply to do an internship here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun.
Is there, I mean, I know you don't have much more time, you have about, a few more minutes, but where would you say that students should be applying for laboratories like that? Is there a particular website for that's just specifically for laboratories?
Yes, let me type in the chat. It's, you can just search up SUI, DOE SUI. I didn't know about this. Like when I was a student, I don't know about this until I actually, because I have to go through the Teach Houston program, be a North Scholar, and through the North Scholar, they have an internship program. And when I got an internship here, I know about this program that hosted by the DOE. So that lead to even more opportunity. So this is, so yeah, just go to Google DOE SUI.
Okay.
Yep.
How much more time do you have to spend with us?
As much time you want.
You got about 7 more minutes. You want to take
this
questions?
guy right here, that's Matt. He's a machine accelerator specialist. This guy is super cool.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
nice.
he's my role model.
Oh, no.
Yes, this guy. Yeah, he know everything.
Okay.
Not true. None of it's true.
Yeah. He said none of it's true.
Does anybody have any questions for Tree?
Yeah, I would, answer any questions.
I had a question. Could you hear me by any chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just had a quick question because I think, especially through undergrad, I've been you learn like for coding in terms of like MATLAB or Python. In your experience, are there any languages that have been stressed in the workplace or even for your laboratory? Like, what kind of code do you use most often?
Yeah, the two you mentioned is like used everywhere. So at our lab, we mainly use MATLAB and Python a lot. We try to steer away from MATLAB because like MATLAB take a while to learn. And Python is like the best language to learn. Everybody can pick up really quickly. So as a math student, we don't get to use coding a lot. I think like I took like one class and we use MATLAB, but like to do matrix multiplication, which is like using a calculator. It's not really a challenging thing to do. So my recommendation is start doing a project by yourself, or if you're an intern, it's automatically like they're expecting you to know some coding. And coding can be self-taught. Starting with Python would be a really great thing to do.
And just one more, if I may. I know I heard it a lot, at least from my parents or some people like from certain jobs that C++ or C+ is used. I was curious if you have used it in workforce or is no, or is it maybe just Python?
Yeah, at our place, just mainly MATLAB and Python. I know some other engineering company using C, C++, and Fortran.
Okay.
But again, the language, right? It's just a language. But if you know the pseudo, you know the logic, it should be fine because like all of that you can just look up from documentation, and you can
Okay.
always implement. Like if you're a math student, it's all about the same thing, right? It's all theorem,
Mhm.
and you can just pull it and apply it to solve what you need to solve.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. If you don't know any coding, now is a very good time to start. We need a lot of coder out there. You write the code, you control the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing a lot when talking to individuals in companies and corporations, and so I guess with labs too, definitely. But I was going to ask the question, like, how many projects? If I'm not sure if this is applicable, but how many projects have you worked on at once, or do you guys just focus on one project at a time?
So we have endless amount of projects. We
So
short on people.
Yeah, how do
and
you organize that? How do you navigate that if you're working on multiple?
So we have a list, and that list come within a list, within a list, and then we prioritize. Okay, we need to get this done first. We need to get this done first, so we can do this and that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just whoever is available when they're not asleep or when they're not, on vacation. And if you have the bandwidth and you have the knowledge, you can try to tackle those projects or problems. And again, you do it. It's not you doing it for yourself. You do it for the team, right? And you are in the team, so you are working for you. And you also working for the team. So as much as you can, accommodate your team or contribute to your team, you also contribute to yourself. And that's my mindset. That's my philosophy, and I enjoy working. That's a problem, like because like if you have problem at work, like you have to need to solve. Like when you eat, when you're driving home, driving to work before going to bed, you're still thinking about it. It's weird, or maybe it's just me. So yeah, it's endless amount project, and you just pick up the one that you feel, comfortable working with and motivate working on. Just like you're not motivated, it's really hard to get that project done. But you find a project that you're motivated, then you can get started on it pretty quickly. You'll be more effective. You get it done much quicker.
Any more questions for Tree? Anybody else?
Tree, I'm curious, how was your work impacted by the pandemic? Did you
Oh, yeah.
like were there delays or like how were you all impacted?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So since we are a lab and our main focus is to solve problem arising in the world, and one of the problem is the coronavirus. So the first thing we have to do is, what the heck this virus look like? How can we tackle it? So our lab is like all the national lab in our country or in the world tackling the same problem. So we have a shutdown for 14 days, and then we come back to work right away. So during the pandemic, we work just like regular day. And some people that can do work from home, they can stay at home. But the nature of my work, we're required to be in the lab, and we have to do social distancing. And you can see now, we still have to wear a mask at workplace, and we have to take COVID tests every single week. And within our department, we are 100% vaccinated, and we still have to wear masks and do COVID tests every single week. Because it's a science place, right? We trust the vaccine, we trust the data, we trust the number. And another way to say on top of that, because it's only 95% effective, right? What's the 5%? Where the other 5% go? Wear a mask and social distance. Yeah, but we know that what we doing here, what we contribute, is for the greater good. So that's why I like to come to work every day.
Any more questions for Tree?
Yeah, don't be shy. I answer any question.
How many people do we have in here?
Yeah, I had just out of curiosity. Apologize if you already said it before, but what was your major going to undergrad? Were you physics or like how? Yeah, what was your?
Yeah, I was a math major, but I also was a physics minor. And math is just a tool, right? And we use math to do other things, and physics is just application for math that we use math for. And as a math major, we built to solve problems, and that's what we do here at my lab every day. We're just solving problems every day, not like pencil or paper problem, like math problem like that, but like real world problem, problem that arise. So it's about how you learn and how you apply what you learn on the fly. Yeah, you don't need to know math. Yeah, you don't need to know like math theorem or anything. It's just like, can you like pick up things quickly and apply it quickly and accurately and safely? Because what we do here, we have to do things fast and safe. That's like the most important thing.
Yeah, because I'm kind of curious because with what you showed us, that long 2-mile tunnel, like being a math major, was it a big transition into like that kind of field? Because it seems like you're doing a lot of physics work, or it wasn't. It was mainly, I guess you're just maybe coding a lot every day. Or...
with regular undergrad physics, it's rarely we can have a class about accelerator physics. What we have here is like not being offered at a university. This is cutting edge stuff, right? It's not gonna make into a class. So all the labs have to come to one conference and make a accelerator school, and that being hosted around the country. So we can attend that and learn everything about accelerator physics. You can walk in knowing nothing about accelerator physics. I mean, you need to know some, E&M, right? And a little bit of calculus. It help you pick up things faster. But yeah, the nature here is like, everything is like brand new, and things that we do, we still doing research on what we're researching on. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the machine that we have, we don't even know what its capability is. We have to keep testing it out, in-house testing. What is our capability? So it's not being written in the book. So we have to keep on learning, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
But maybe other professor here would disagree with me, but yeah, that's just a very good question. My advice is always stay eager to learn and pick up new things. Yeah, don't take shortcut out in life. Learn as much thing as you could, especially coding.
I, for one, will disagree with nothing that you say. You have 2 bosses and get 2 raises a year, so you've got it all sorted out as far as I can tell.
Definitely.
I have more than 2 bosses and get fewer than 2 raises a year, so I want to follow your lead, and I suggest everyone else does as well.
But like, think about this though, right? It's like if you have one boss and then raise 2% per year, is that the same as 2 bosses raising 1% per year? So you could ask your boss to give you a bigger raise. You don't have to worry about going to have 2 bosses, because it's really difficult. It's like, if people ask me like, who do I work for? Like, I don't even know who I work for, and I have the problem explaining to people what I do at my work. Like, not many people know about accelerated physics and what we actually do. And like, when I tell people I work at Slack, you mean like the Slack with a K, like the messaging app Slack that company use, or like a Stanford Linear Accelerator Slack, like. And then people's like, what does Accelerator do? Like, oh God, here we go again. Like, spend like 15 minutes explaining to them what's going on here. So my best answer is like a really fancy camera. I can take a snapshot of things that's really, really small in atomic size. Like you can see like photosynthesis happen. Like you can see with the naked eye, but with this our laser, we can like get those shots and we can like stitch it together and have an image of what photosynthesis look like. And that's pretty crazy to me. I imagine like our second machine turning on that we can shot as a million pulse per second. I can't imagine what it's gonna look like. It's so crazy. And what's cool is that when you're shooting things, right, it doesn't destroy it, right? Because like with what the machine that we have right now, when you shoot a target, it get destroyed, and then the scatter get recorded, and then you stitch it together, make an image. But with this pulse, it happens so fast, so bright, and the repetition rate is so high. You zap it, the object's still there, and you already got an image of it, which is mind blowing. I don't know how it's gonna work, but hopefully it will work. The physics says work, but in real life, does it work? Maybe. But yeah.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, I think that'll be it, and we can move forward to Brandon Wright for AIG. But we want to thank you so much, Tree. That was great, wonderful. Thank you, and very interesting.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Definitely
You
need
should
to
invite me back
have
next year,
Yeah, I would love actually.
and then you guys can come next year too. And maybe we can talk about LCLS too when it come online.
Yeah,
So
you
it's
can
like,
update and see what you guys are
yeah,
doing and how you progressed since the last time you spoken at the meet and greet. That'd be awesome.
yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
I
much.
want 2 machine running. Got
Yeah.
2 more to run. So, all right, I'm gonna go back to work.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Brandon.
I'm glad not too many of our graduate students listened to that. I think he was saying things that may be a little discouraging to some of our graduate students, but fortunately there's a competing pizza party going on down the hall.
Yes.
So
yes. I just figured that out actually when I was walking down the hallway about 10 minutes before I got ready to start. I was like, where are you guys going? And they was like, well, we have this event. I'm like, oh, no wonder. I mean, I didn't know that they had an event. I didn't see it on the calendar, but that's okay. It's fine. It's no problem.
Yeah, it's not gourmet pizza. So
The speaker enthusiasm bar has been set high though, for the remaining speakers. So
yeah, it has. But we have. I mean, what event is it, Dr. B? Do you know? Like it, like is it this meeting, or is there
it's like the graduate student. I think it's like the graduate student. Maybe like something like the American Women in Mathematics thing or something like that. I forget. Oh no, actually I'm sorry, no, that's not quite right. It's basically, I think it's something to help undergraduates apply for graduate school and what they might need to apply for graduate school. So I'm kind of glad they're eating pizza rather than listening to all that stuff about getting lots of raises, because otherwise they'll never go to graduate school.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, you know what? That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, because they could go to graduate school, they could get a master's, or they could get a PhD and still end up at a laboratory.
Yeah.
And still the same thing that Tree's doing.
Yeah. No. I think that not everybody who goes into industry gets all those kind of raises, and and sometimes grad school is definitely the best route for many things. But anyway, I'll stop talking. So.
Okay, guys. So now we have Brandon Wright with AIG. He's going to discuss about our winter actuary camp. And as I mentioned, potentially a path leading into AIG, specifically with their internship. There's some internship program as well. And Maggie Renna is here to join him. at the last minute, I realized that she's going to be here, which is great. So I'll also add you on our website, Maggie, so you know that you're actually here. Okay, so let's start. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, for sure. And so just
And
real
I'm sorry,
quick.
I
Oh,
made you
go ahead.
co-host. I made
Okay,
you co-host.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I do plan to share some things on the screen. I'll just caveat that, like, even just a couple minutes before this, my Zoom stopped. So if it stops in the middle of my talk, I'll try to dial back in on my phone, and maybe I'll just talk through what I was gonna share and try to hit some of the points that you sent out, Ty. But in the meantime, I'll give it a shot on my slides. Also, yeah, and I'll just mention also, so Maggie Renna is on, and she's Maggie runs our actuarial development program at AIG, and so she, you know, I'll talk a little bit more about the actuarial development program a bit later on, but Maggie is in charge of all of the folks that would come in as interns or entry-level actuarial employees at AIG.
Yeah, I think he it dropped him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me text him real quick.
yeah. I thought I froze, but
No,
yeah.
I think he.
Yeah, so Brandon may have to dial in, but he's got a good presentation. I saw part of it earlier in the week. So there's a lot of important information he's going to share about the camp coming up. And also we'll talk about some opportunities at AIG. Mostly we have internships. We don't really have a good sense of the full-time staffing needs for next spring, but we do know that we will have several internships to fill. So he will share that with you just to give you an idea of what we're looking for. Basically, we have some qualifications, like you need to have at least one actuarial exam passed, either P or FM. It doesn't matter which one you take first. Oftentimes, students will take whichever exam correlates more closely to the coursework they had that semester, and then they get it out of the way. I would encourage people to, in addition to their coursework, reach out to some online source to get additional training, additional background in the course material, and definitely take a lot of practice exams. Not underestimate the ability to pass an exam, because it's not like any midterm or final. The SOA exams are very different, and you can do well, but if other people do better, you'll still fail. You will fail exams along the way, so you kind of have to expect that and just brush it off. If it's something that you want to do, then view the exams as a stepping stone to becoming an actuary. And don't get discouraged if you fail one or two along the way. That does happen. Even our chief actuary failed exams, I'm sure, when she was taking them.
Yeah, I think
So,
that the actuaries have mentioned to us in the past during the seminars is that one of the things that they really weren't prepared for was the timing aspect of the exam. Yeah, they were so caught up on content that they really didn't get themselves together with the pacing part of it. Yeah.
And that's so important, because it's 3 hours. It goes by so fast. You have to allow just a few minutes per question. And if you feel like one question in particular is taking up too much of your time, you're better off just moving on to the next one.
I think we have Brandon back, but anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think Brandon's back. Yeah.
I'm back. Yeah, no, thanks for covering for me, Maggie. I think you covered some really good points that I would have hit on as well. So I guess
just the warm up.
No, that was. I mean, the exams are a critical part of the process of becoming an actuary. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm gonna just talk through some quick intro stuff, and then I'll talk about the exam P camp as well. I won't go through some of the other stuff that I was gonna go through. So my name is Brandon Wright. I'm the Deputy Chief Finance Actuary
at AIG. And I'm based in Houston, Texas. I live right around the corner from University of Houston. So the Deputy Chief Finance Actuary, that's a lot of words. But essentially my job at AIG is for our life insurance business. So AIG sells both life insurance and annuities and property and casualty insurance. And so for our life insurance business, my role is to kind of coordinate and oversee a lot of the functions that actuaries perform within AIG. So that's my role. I've been an actuary working in the profession for about almost 20 years now. I'm a fellow of the Society of Actuaries, which is the second and kind of last professional designation that you get as an actuary. And also a member of the Academy of Actuaries, which is the body that kind of governs the profession of actuarial science, kind of similar to the Bar Association or some of the professional associations for other careers. If anybody is not familiar with the actuarial profession. So that's me. I got an undergraduate degree in math from Morehouse College in Atlanta. I at the time did not know that I wanted to become an actuary, so I started out with the intent to get a dual degree in math and engineering. But I had my first engineering internship and kind of decided that engineering wasn't for me. And so decided to finish out my math degree. And, from there, tried to figure out what I was going to do with a math degree. I heard about actuarial science, I think from some classmates of mine during my last year of undergrad. I heard that it was at the time the #1 profession, #1 career in the nation. And it's actuarial. The actuarial profession has been ranked pretty high for, it's usually #1 or 2 or 3, depending on which ranking that you look at. And so I heard about it and I thought it sounded interesting. I was interested in anything that could relate kind of the concepts of math and money, which were both very interesting to me. And so I decided to go to graduate school and get a master's degree in actuarial science. And I started taking my actuarial exams then later landed myself an internship. My first internship was with New York Life in New York City. And then my second internship was with AIG, where I ended up staying for the majority of my career. I did take a few years and go and work at a company as a consulting actuary for a few years before coming back to AIG in the role that I'm currently in. So that's kind of my background, how I got to where I am. And so what I was going to go through was a bit about how the process to become an actuary, which I think Ty and Maggie were both talking about the exam process quite a bit. You can find out about the exam process on a number of websites. If you just kind of Google actuarial exams, it'll eventually lead you to the actuarial exam pathway. But one really helpful thing about for you all as students at U of H is that U of H offers an exam P camp. And so exam P is typically one of the first exams, actuarial exams that actuarial students take. It covers probability and I believe statistics also, or perhaps it's just probability. I can't remember if there's any statistics on there. But the exam P camp will be offered from December 13th to January 6th. And so it's taught by graduate students at U of H. It's a really good way to kind of get an introductory look at the types of problems and material that'll be covered on exam P. And so I certainly recommend attending the camp if you have not been exposed to actuarial science before, or even if you have taken an exam before and want to kind of brush up on some topics and get a little extra help and a little extra perspective on how to attack some of the problems. The information about the camp is on the department's website. I'll just mention a couple highlights. There's a registration fee of $350, and there are a few ways that you can get discounts for that registration fee. One is by registering early, and so details about that are on the website. The camp is, I believe it's 4 weeks of 4 days of sessions from 11 to 2 p.m. And the other thing that myself and Maggie are involved with related to the camp is that AIG typically hosts 1 or 2 sessions where we come in and talk about some of the professional aspects of being an actuary. So anything from exam tips to kind of a day in the life of an actuary, describing what we do on a day-to-day basis. And we sometimes will bring in speakers, other actuaries from around the country, company that do really interesting work. So highly recommend attending the Exam P camp. I think it looks like Ty put the link to the camp in the chat. I'm kind of looking on my phone, so trying to talk and yeah. All right. So Exam P camp. After that, as far as becoming an actuary, there are, in addition to the camp, in addition to the exams, some of your credit towards becoming a professional actuary can be earned through coursework that you can take at University of Houston. And again, some of those details I think are on the exam camp page, but there's a system called validation by educational something. I forgot. The acronym is VEE, and you can get VEE credits by registering for certain courses that are offered, registering and passing certain courses that are offered at U of H. So again, encourage you to look for that information on the website.
Yeah, I'll have to update that information, Brandon, because from what the last time I looked, it seems like that some of our courses have expired, and it's not just our course itself, it's just that they're no longer offering those courses for that type of credit, like the experience has. Yeah. So, and they've come up with a little, different additional things as well. So I have to update that information.
Okay.
But right now, as it stands, the information is current. It indicates when it expires on the website. But I have to do a little bit more digging and find out, what all they've done to change that. Yeah.
The interesting thing about the actuarial profession, so we've mentioned that the exam process is difficult. There are also a lot of exams. The other thing is that the exam syllabus tends to change every few years, and so the educational requirements get updated from time to time. And so it's important, if you are interested in becoming an actuary, that you go to the websites for the credentialing organizations and get familiar with the requirements at that time, because they do change from time to time. And so you don't want to be studying for an exam that's no longer offered or part of the curriculum. So be familiar with where to find the exam, syllabus and curriculum currently, another important part of it. I think that's probably all that I have prepared, but I'm happy to answer questions, or if there are points that I've missed that you'd like me to talk about, I can certainly do that as well.
I was gonna ask if you and your team y'all still plan to give a couple of seminars for the winter camp, or do you think it's just best to have one? How was your feeling about last winter camp? Did you feel that you needed to have more than one seminar, or was one sufficient? What was your feeling with that?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I'd be curious to know if there was feedback from the students, whether or not it was valuable. I guess it always depends on how much exposure, I know one thing about the actuarial profession, and I was Tree that spoke before, I was glad to hear that I'm not the only one that whose profession is not like widely known, and when you say the word, people don't always know what you're talking about. So I think I guess it depends on if if the students felt that it was valuable to hear kind of about what the day-to-day work of an actuary is, depending on, you know, the level of exposure of the students that register for the camp. You know, I mean, we're flexible. We're happy to do whatever you think is needed or is most valuable.
They did. I sent out a survey and got quite a bit of feedback from it. So they enjoyed both.
Okay.
But I kind of want to make the best use of you and your team's time.
Yep.
It's basically why I'm asking that question.
No, understood. I mean, we're happy to come in for whatever is needed. I think Maggie can attest. We have quite a few actuaries, quite a few people taking exams, and we have quite a few people that are very interested in kind of bringing people along into the profession. So
yeah, for sure. We can always get volunteers to help with that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about the internship?
I did have a question. Is it okay if I ask a question about the career and how it looks, if I may?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just was curious about, because when I heard about actuarial science, I was, at least from the course, I know it's a lot of calculus that's involved. I was curious in like, for like everyday work, how often are you really using math, or is it, I was just kind of curious of what it looks like your everyday job as an actuary.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think so it varies because actuaries kind of hold a lot of functions within a company. There are certainly roles that use quite a bit of probability and calculus. So for example, roles where you're calculating reserves, we have to determine the amount of money that we put away to pay our life insurance claims in the future. And for that, you know, there's certainly a lot of probability and statistics involved with that calculation, but then there's also some calculus type concepts, I would say. I would say that you wouldn't be like calculating derivatives or integrals necessarily, you know, in your daily work, but you need to kind of understand the concepts of those things and how they would apply to certain situations.
Okay.
Yeah,
that does. I was just wanted to ask because I remember when I first heard like what actuarial science was, like the idea of like doing like computational work like that. It was like, oh my god, that sounds so fun! Like do it every day.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
I was curious, like, oh, what it looks like. But okay, that helps. Thank you.
You're a rare type that says that sounds like a lot of fun. So that's good. I think you should consider being an actuary.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Brandon, I have a question for you. So, I mean, obviously you're far removed from the entry level work of an actuary, but what do you have any sense of how that job has changed since you did it, as far as like what the day-to-day workings are, or software requirements, or other things that are kind of like aside from the passing of the exams that are sort of expected in terms of skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. When I started kind of entry-level actuary or internship, so a lot of the roles that I had as an entry-level actuary were a lot of like moving data around, and so copying and pasting data from one spreadsheet to another, and you know, loading it into some software so that it would do a calculation. I think technology has evolved such that, you know, the moving data around is a bit more automated than it was when I was an entry-level actuary. And so we have more sophisticated systems that actually, you know, kind of automatically move the data around. And so I do think entry-level actuaries do a bit more analysis and review of the data that, you know, the copying and pasting jobs, or the you know, the loading of different data sets into a program, and just kind of reviewing to make sure that the output makes sense. So entry level actuaries do a bit more of that than I did when I was an entry level actuary. So it's just kind of cut out that kind of very bottom layer of copying and pasting, typing numbers into spreadsheets and that kind of thing. So I'd say that's a little bit different. Actuaries do a bit more analysis, and I think the push going forward will be just to continue kind of getting actuaries out of entry-level actuaries, even out of the more kind of mundane tasks and into more of the like analysis of what does it mean, what does the output from our models mean, and understanding how movements in for example our mortality experience or our premiums collected, what does that mean for our business? So I think it's, kind of a continuing process to evolving.
So along those lines, when you say that expecting to do more of, analysis and interpretation even earlier, I would imagine for an internship, there are maybe people with more experience who are kind of following up on things that you're calculations being made or decisions making. But how soon were you sort of operating without a net in that sense in your career, where you were maybe making decisions where, devastation could be on the horizon if there's a mistake there or something like that?
So I'll say,
or is maybe there's always redundancy where you can't
there's always another layer of people reviewing and challenging your work. And so so my team produces work and produces output and analysis that I review and present to my bosses, and they have their own opinions on how that will impact our business based on what they know about our business from their view, right? As people who are, like senior level executives and kind of external facing. My boss is the CFO for the life business. And so he does a lot of explaining, how our financials are moving. And so there's always kind of a level of review and challenge above each person, right? But I think maybe part of what you were hitting on is, what I initially reacted when I heard your question was, so when I started as an entry-level actuary, I did not understand how insurance worked at all. Like I had no clue how it worked. And a lot of people coming in, beyond if they know what a premium is and a claim is, that's a better start than a lot of people, right? But I'd say the learning curve in insurance is expected to be very long. You're not expected to come in, fully understanding how all of the various types of reserves for all of our policies should be calculated. And it may take several years before you get to the point that you can kind of do that work. And I think it's like a continual learning journey. So I have oversight of a business that, makes, of the actuarial functions in a business that make, millions of dollars a year. But there are people who have been in the industry longer that, have opinions about the decisions that I make and can always push back on the decisions that I make and that kind of thing. So it's continual. It's a very long process. And, you just kind of grow as you go along. I don't know if that answered your question at all.
No, I think it does. I just didn't know if were ever in such a sort of, you graduate to a position where it's like you're making independent choices with so much writing on it. That seems like it wouldn't be the case, but certainly would be the case early.
Yeah, there certainly are. So even there was a slide that I had that talks about the progression, like the job level progression within the actuarial like career path at AIG. And so there are some kind of definitions of like so people's titles within the company will kind of will kind of indicate what level of responsibility they have to kind of operate independently, right? So while you're an actuarial student and taking actuarial exams, you get progressively more responsibility. And there, you know, I don't know, Maggie may be able to quote kind of what the levels of responsibility are at each different, at each point along the progression. You know, so there are all these kind of roles that are designated for people that are still passing exams. And then once you've finished your exams, you're at that point, you supposedly have kind of a foundational knowledge of all of the concepts that would apply to a life or annuity insurance business. And then you kind of graduate to like maybe a director level or associate director level position where you have a team of people working under you and you're reviewing their work. But again, even at that level, there are people who will review and challenge the work that you do. So it's continual. There are some kind of loose definitions around at each level, kind of what you're responsible for and what kind of authority you have. But it's a little fuzzy.
Yeah, and with the internship, you know, it's a 10-week experience. So it's not uncommon for people to come in and really not know what's going on. And we spend a lot of time telling the interns it's okay. We don't expect them to have all the answers. We're really looking for people that are curious, you know, have that drive, are eager to learn, and, you know, are willing to make a difference over the summer. And every intern is assigned a project. At the end of the 10 weeks, they make a presentation, they talk about what they worked on. By then, they know what their piece was and how it contributed to the bigger picture. So they talk about that, they talk about what they learned, and everyone gains valuable experience. It looks great on your resume to have an internship at AIG, obviously. You learn a lot about actuarial principles, how they're applied here. You get a lot of support by way of your manager. Everybody gets a buddy. You have access to my team for the whole 10 weeks, and you increase your network. And so after the summer, you know, we joke that it's the world's longest job interview. After 10 weeks, you have a pretty good sense if AIG is for you or not, if you like the culture, if you like the work. We have a very good sense of what you're capable of doing. So within a few weeks after the internship, we will go ahead and extend offers to everyone to either return for a second internship, if they're still going to be, if they're going to be a rising senior, and then the ones that are graduating will get a full-time offer upon graduation. So it's kind of nice to get that information early in the academic year so that then you can just focus on your academics and in your club work and everything else and not have to worry about going on interviews and setting up meetings and all of that, because that takes up a lot of your time. So it's our hope that over the course of the summer, you get a really good sense of whether or not it's for you. And then of course, if you come back in a full-time capacity, as Brandon was saying, there are steps. You come in as an actuarial assistant. That's our entry-level opportunity. And then after about 2 years and passing a few exams, you're promoted to the next level. And every 2 years, you also will rotate to a different assignment within the company. So by the time you complete all of the actuarial exams, maybe 5, 7 years, however long it takes, you've had a few rotations, you've had experience, exposure to different parts of the company, and increased your network substantially. You have a good sense of where you'd like to work as you really start your career as an FSA at that point.
If I may, I wanted to ask a question about when you're talking, you and Brandon talked about the entry level work. I remember you mentioned something about like spreadsheets and analysis, like some type of data. I was curious about what that looks like. Is it like through an Excel spreadsheet and like you're just like copy and pasting a lot of work, or is it through like a lot of you're working with like certain languages and coding? I was just kind of curious of what that kind of looked like a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, it all depends. So again, so AIG, where I'm at a life insurance company, and so we have millions and millions of life insurance policyholders. So often what you're doing is looking at, and so sometimes it'll be an Excel or an Access database, or you could be querying data from one of our systems that administers those policies and pulling out data and putting it into a modeling system. It kind of varies from role to role. I would say there's not a single, like software that every entry-level actuary uses. I'd say certainly the most common is Excel. And so probably everybody knows how to, use Excel or write macros to do kind of quick things. But then we have everything from, like homegrown modeling systems to administrative systems that are sold to us by vendors to, just data that's in spreadsheets that we develop processes around as well. So it varies quite a bit, but yeah, usually, I mean, when I speak of large amounts of data, it's typically referring to like our policyholder data and doing something with that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I just was curious what that kind of looked like.
Yep.
Sorry, I have a question about the internship. I was wondering if it's only offered during the summer. Like, is there a
Yes.
spring program or? Oh, okay.
No, it's really an enterprise-wide internship program. So our early careers folks, they will recruit for not just actuarial, but for finance and legal, all types of internship positions. So the timing is always the summer, about mid-June to mid-August. Now, that's not to say that you can't, on occasion, stay on into a fall internship if things work out and you're able to, if you have a light schedule and you're able to still work part of the time, if there's interest on the part of your work group and you're available, sometimes that is an option. But I haven't heard of any spring internships.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering because like I'm graduating this semester, so I was just
Oh,
wondering
you
if
are?
have
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any exams passed?
No, I haven't taken exams yet. I've just
Okay.
heard about the career like spring last year.
So you should be signing up for that camp then.
Yeah, I'm really interested.
Yeah.
In it.
That's the first
Um,
step. That's, you need to pass an exam for either an internship or a full-time position.
I have a question for both of you or either of you. When it comes to passing the exams, if there are people who are intimidated by the idea of it, would you say that, or if you want to put a percentage on it, like how much do you attribute to, putting in the work and the hours towards passing the exam, and how much would you say is just, this is an intellect issue, or maybe it's probably different on different exams, but how, so that kind of gauge, is it something to be intimidated by, or are you only limited by how much work you're willing to put in towards it?
Well, Brandon, maybe you feel more comfortable answering that question since you've taken exams and I haven't, but I think, you definitely have to prepare for them. It's not something to be taken lightly. And, there have been, discussions about 100 hours of study per hour of the exam. So a 3-hour exam translates to about 300 hours of study. And, in addition to studying, a lot of exam prep and taking practice exams over and over again, trying to challenge yourself each time to answer more difficult questions and answer them within the time frame of the exam. So that's a general response, but I'll let Brandon speak to your question.
Yeah. Dr. West, you always have the the good hard questions, and you phrased it in a way that made it challenging for me as an actuary, because you said what's the percentage of like percentage of one thing versus the other. So now I'm trying to like collect all the data in my head and respond to the question. So it's tough to say like how much of it is one thing versus the other. I would be in the camp that answers that it's 90% the work that you put in and maybe 10% intellect. Here's what I'll say. So one thing you said was it might be different for every exam. I think that's actually probably not true. I think if you can pass one actuarial exam, you can pass any of them. And I've heard a lot of people say that. And so I would say if you're interested in trying to take the exams, try your best to pass the first one. Once you've passed that one, you shouldn't be discouraged that that you shouldn't think that there's any reason why you can't finish the rest of them. It's just going to be a matter of putting in the work. As far as, I mean, certainly you have to be able to grasp mathematical concepts and probability and statistics. If you can complete a degree, a math degree, I think that you probably have what it takes to pass an actuarial exam, but it's just a matter of putting in the time and effort. That's my opinion.
I mean, I was saying I was intending that for that to be conditioned on, that you are, in either, I mean, our students wouldn't have had a math degree yet, but you're in a program for mathematics, you're successful enough to consider a career in it. That, I mean, I guess you're not, maybe another way to phrase this would be, how often did you pass one of these exams and just say, like, thankfully, due to my superior intellect, I was able to make it through this, or, I really worked really hard. And I think that and I could see my other people I work with who are putting these hours would also be successful at this kind of thing.
Well, what I will refer to is my own experience going through the exam process, right? So there are people that I would say probably relied on their superior intellect and still had to study quite a bit, but relied on their superior intellect and passed most of their exams on the first try. Mm-hmm. I think I know people like that. I was not one of those people. I passed one exam of the 9 or however many I took on the first try. All the others I passed on the third try or later. And so, but the letters behind my name are still FSA, right? So I made it to the end, due to the work that I put in. And I would say certainly not because of my superior intellect. So that's been my experience. And so, yeah, I think there are a few ways to get there, right?
But as you said, the result has still been successful for you.
Right. That's right.
Perhaps one might say wildly successful for you, and yet. So I mean, there's not like it doesn't sound like there's so much to be intimidated by for people who are maybe kind of concerned about getting into the field, that if you are willing to put in the work, and what you guys haven't said, but you've said in the past, if I can speak for you a little bit, that one of the things that sounds amazing from the outside is that when you put in these hours that you're going to put into basically any job. Well, I mean, there's some outside of work hours for sure in that, but like you're going to work hard, and you're going to work hard even seasonally, I think, at any job. But you see immediate payoff when you pass these exams in the form of, I believe, raises accompany these, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah,
which is a rare thing in any industry.
And the other thing is that while you're taking these exams, once you've kind of landed your first job, the company is paying you to study, right? It's part of your requirements of your job. And so most actuarial students will have 100 or 200 hours per, every 6 months built into their work schedule for studying. I think that's right. Maggie, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's right. It depends on the length of the exam, but you do get a certain number of hours for each exam.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions for Brandon?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sure.
I just had one more question. because I was just curious about for students that were still interested in graduate school, because I think actuarial science is very interesting, but I also am curious about like what graduate school would look like. Is there a certain policy for students that are interested in the internship or possibly work for IG in the future, however, at the same time still wanting to continue to like learn more about mathematics and that are not related to probability? Is there anything that's kind of like a certain policy that you have, or anything you can tell me about that?
So we hire undergrads and also grad students. As long as you're getting your degree in 2023, by 2023, you can apply for an internship in 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any more questions? Any more comments from Maggie or Brandon?
No, I'm gonna have to drop off, but thank you all for letting me come in and talk to you all.
Thank
And feel
Thank
free
you.
to
I really
reach out on.
appreciate y'all.
Yep, thanks.
Yep, same here. I wish all of you luck. Feel free to reach out to us with any additional questions after today. And hopefully a lot of you will sign up for the Camp P session coming up soon. Thank you, Professor West. Thank you, Ty, for having us today.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Have a great
All right.
week, guys.
Great to see you.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So now we have Jordan Chappell from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and I believe Adriana is going to join him. Again, guys, please make sure you turn your cameras on. This is going to be a Q&A session, meaning it will be very interactive. Questions will be asked, should be coming from you to ask these questions. And if Jordan or Adriana ask questions to everyone else, please respond. Okay, this is very interactive. All right, thank you guys. Let's start.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ty. Good to see you again. I see some familiar faces. James, how are you doing? How's everything? Yeah, cool.
Yes, good.
Yeah, good. So I'm Jordan Chappell, and I have my coworker and partner, Adriana Espinoza. So I'm located in Houston, Texas, and Adriana is located in Costa Rica. Yeah, definitely. So my degree is in math, and I went to the University of Houston, so I definitely understand what y'all are going through. Graduated back in 2016, and I actually started in insurance. Did the actuary route, took 2 exams, and then decided to indulge into tech. So currently now I'm at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, one of the pricing analytics manager. So we manage the pricing for all of North America. And kind of the business that we're in, we kind of manage probably about 60-70% of the business. And the misconception of HPE is actually 2 different companies. The company that you know is HP Incorporated, so the printing, ink, laptops, workstations. We actually split from them back in 2016, and so we sell servers, so like the supercomputers and the big servers. So that's kind of what we kind of do. And then if Adriana, if you want to kind of explain your role as well.
Yes, thank you, Jordan. Well, as you mentioned, I'm based in Costa Rica. I've been in the company for 5 years. I studied public accounting, and then I worked at a Big Four for many years in taxes, and then I decided to take a different role. I worked as a controller for a company that had presence in four countries, and then I moved to HPE, where I've been in finance, in operations, and now I'm part of, I work with Jordan. I'm on the business planning and strategic initiatives part of the business. So we partnered a lot because Jordan makes the magic, gets the numbers, and then we analyze them together. And we give recommendations, pricing, strategy. We plan ahead of what's coming, what the competition is doing. So we do a lot of things with a lot of teams, and we definitely handle very sensitive information too, of course.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely pretty much talk every single day. And some of the tools that we use, yes, we use Excel, but we use tools like Power BI, SQL Server. We program in Python and in R. So if we want to do like a regression analysis, or some of the things that we kind of do is market basket analysis. So we kind of look at, if you go into a grocery store, customers buy, what do they buy? They buy milk, they buy oranges, everything, right? So we want to kind of figure out, let me see. Okay. So we're good. Can y'all hear me? Okay, cool. So some of the analysis that we do is kind of like market basket analysis. So we look at what are the companies buying in terms of servers. So on a server, right, there are, you have components like the controller, you have the HDD, you have the memory, you have everything, right? So we kind of look at what customers are buying and what's the sweet spots, and we're in the business to make money, right? So we want to analyze past data, the historical data, and then we kind of predict, how our prices are doing relative to our margins, right? So for every server that we're buying, how many options are they attaching to the server, and how many dollars are we making for each server that we're making? Because there are some servers that aren't as profitable relative to other servers that we buy. So is it our marketing strategy? Is it our pricing? Or is it competition like Dell, AWS, Amazon, or IBM? Are their prices just better? How are they closing the deals out? And, how are our margins? How can we increase our margins? So we kind of look at that like a profit analysis. So we use Power BI, Excel, if we want to do like a quick model. So yeah, definitely. Now, what questions do we have? I will pick on you if you haven't asked the question yet. So I see who just came in here. I think it was Catherine. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Great, great, great. So are you a math major?
Yes.
Okay, so you're a junior?
Yes.
Okay, okay. You have any questions for me or Adriana? This is just like conversation. It doesn't have to be serious. It's just conversation.
So you said you attended the University of Houston for mathematics as well?
Yes, go Cougs.
Yes.
Mm.
So, and have you met with any like professors in recent years, or has it been a while since you've attended UH or visited?
The last time I actually visited I guess the last time I saw, yeah, I think it was like 2 years before the pandemic. So I did this about 2 years. So I saw like Dr. West, I saw Ty and some other professors. So I really, we still communicate even though, I've graduated from there, because, I want to help you all kind of, pay it forward and help you all kind of start your careers using math, because you can do anything with the degree. Like just because you have a math degree, people think, okay, like if you can be just a teacher or grad student or a graduate professor, which is great, right? From the academia side, but you can also go in insurance, you can go into research, you can go into tech. So you can really do anything with a math degree, as long as you have the head knowledge. And what I will say, and I think I was going to get into this later, you all obviously being a math major have the technical knowledge, right? The programming, the logic, that's great. Now we need to kind of focus more on some of the soft skills. So definitely, I know I just kind of put you on the spot, right? But that's definitely kind of developing your soft skills where, you do interviews, or even like for me, Adriana, there are times where we're kind of put on the spot in a meeting where our manager or whoever the stakeholder is asking, hey, what's going on with our pricing there? Why are we making money there? And we are expected to kind of answer that. Whether that's we either know it there or we find out what next steps are. So definitely soft skills are the utmost important. So communication, and you've actually kind of been working on that even when you're emailing your professor, right? I'm sure Dr. West and Dr. Bletcher, and even you, Ty, have those emails where the communication wasn't there, right? That's definitely important in the corporate world that people don't realize, that students don't realize. You're actually starting it now because you're building a relationship and rapport with your professor, right?
Right.
So definitely working on things like that. Attending workshops like this is definitely important. And I commend you and your fellow students for actually taking the time to attend this session. So yeah, definitely.
How do you think the UH math department has evolved over the years?
Well, now with what Ty has kind of created, and with Dr. West and Dr. Bletcher, is kind of partnering with her, having companies like AIG doing those, and quote me if I'm saying this wrong, Ty, those different programs, those internship programs. And actually we're partnering together.
Yeah.
I'm working on the HPE side to help bring on particularly math students to internship programs at HPE. We already have that. We already have a internship program at HPE, but I want to target math students because mostly I know the Bauer students get a lot of love over there. So we want to focus on the math students and kind of help pave the way to get you into tech or whatever industry you want to get in. Yeah.
Is it
Hey,
ask a question? Hey, how you doing?
good, good.
So I kind of want to ask a similar question I asked Mr. Wright. I was curious about, well, part of the reason why, of course, I picked math because I'm very interested in it, and I want to be able to do any career that involves like computational work, any just work related to it. I was kind of curious, like for your career, how often are you using math each day? Is it I just wanted to see some insight into how often you're using it, or what does a typical day look like?
Yeah, and I think who was the first person, Ty? I think is it Trong?
It was Tree.
Tree. Yeah. Our days change daily. I would say hourly, right? Adriana, because we get like different asks, different requests every day. So in terms of math, like, look, we've definitely went through calculating derivatives and doing all that. It's really about the kind of like what I think it was Tree, right? What he was saying, math is just a tool. Then you take it out to something like physics, or for us, it's like financial. We do more financial math. It's just a tool. So we're not really calculating like derivatives and all that, but we use that logic in math, and then we say, okay, we're like the bridge between like the data and the business. So we try to figure out, okay, here's where we are. We are down 20% year over year. So that means we're not making as much money than we're last year, right? How can we increase the margins? How can we do that? Now, there's the data part that will say that, but then the real world is, we still have to deal with people. So is it marketing strategy? Is it we're not saying the right thing to the customer, and maybe Dell is saying the right things in terms of getting some incentives, discounts, and and that's how they're kind of closing the deal out. So it's kind of like you're learning right now, you're learning the technical part, right? Then when you get to the real world, it's like, that's where your real soft skills come out, where you're doing presentations and you're doing really what we do a lot of brute force analysis, right? So we just try a lot of things. So it's like a lot of what if scenarios. What happens if we put the price of a DL160 server at $1,500? What will happen to our profit margin? So we dump all the data into our data model, and then we just see what happens. We don't know what happens, right? And then we kind of, we kind of iterate that through, machine learning or regression analysis. And then that's how we kind of figure out. It's really kind of trying a lot of things, right? So that's why for us, we're always learning it, like daily, right?
Yeah, and I want to ask that because I definitely want, if I were to pick a career, hopefully a dream is to, I don't want to ever stop learning. Like that's definitely something I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. So I guess like kind of to get some clarification, I see it as like a lot of like you said, the margins, like trying to see, like make certain predictions and just trying to analyze your data and to try to find like what's the best way to make the most money for your company, and also involves at the same time while you're doing that and you come to some end result, talking to people and make sure you have like a very good communication skills to trying to get your point across, or I don't know, your everything you've researched or your analysis to with the best product. I don't know. I guess I was just curious because I want to see it more, what your world looks like. So, yeah, thank you. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Let me see if I mean, let me see. And Adriana can speak of this too. So like we'll be in meetings where we're
It's different every day.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. And it's not always like this, right? I've been in roles where I know that from the 1st to the 5th of every single month, I'm going to be doing the same things, right? This role in particular is it changes. It's very ad hoc. You'll be doing one thing today, but then tomorrow something will jump and you'll just fix that or give your input on that. And then you're moving on to the next thing. It's very, very dynamic. And I've been saying it. I've been in this role since approximately March this year. And every single day that I've been on this role, every single one, I've learned something new. And that doesn't happen in every single role. But I think that for this particular area where we are, it's very dynamic because it has a lot to do with sales, right? And where we produce money. And what's more interesting is that it's a very diverse group. So I have a finance background. Jordan has a math background. He handles data. Then we kind of together build the story. I have more expertise on creating the PowerPoint presentation that we're going to give to the VPs, because one thing is what you get when you get the raw data, right? And you have to turn that and convert that into something that a VP, you have to give him 3 things. He only has 5 minutes, right? Or 10 minutes. You have to give your 3 top insights, and that's it. Those are your 2 cents. And like this, right? And it changes. And just tell me, let's cut to the chase. So it's very interesting how the synergy works to get this group that has different backgrounds to produce one thing together. And it's usually very successful, I'm gonna say. We have pretty good synergy. So it's not boring at all.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds stressful, but that sounds very exciting at the same time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just really like just adapting, right? Because like we'll have one thing where the stakeholders saying, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And we go ahead and produce it. And then, you know, our boss Ludovine, she's really she's brilliant in the sense that she knows exactly what she wants. And so she'll ask us, hey, can we produce this? And then we produce it. And then that just we kind of go down the rabbit hole in the sense like, okay, we're doing this. Okay, what happens if we change the number and we put this in the data model, and you know, kind of doing a deep dive analysis. And then that's whenever you know, I partner with Adriana. You know, I just had the data model, right? She takes the data model, she creates a PowerPoint presentation, and then we figure out, okay, what is actually providing value, right? Because we deal with millions of transactions on a monthly basis. Millions, right? That's a lot of data, right? So we need to kind of figure out what's actually important in the sense of what the stakeholders want, right? Because we're in the business to make money, and you know, Dell and other competition, you know, we have to stay on top of that, right? So, and I was actually going to present so you can kind of see the website.
Yeah, you have co-host permissions. I was gonna ask that too, Jordan. Like, how big is competitiveness and competition with? I mean, is that always in the back of your mind whenever you're doing whatever project you're on? Like, is it just you know, we have to beat the competition? And how much of that is an actual driving force to, you know, to get done what you need, whatever your focus is?
Well, yeah, it's definitely important because this, you know, our executives, they have goals, right? They have, you know, for every fiscal quarter, we have goals that we have to meet. I mean, at the end of the day, if the company makes money, I make money, and I get to, you know, I get to eat and do what I need to do. So the real drive point is, especially with the pandemic going on, right? We want to make sure that we're staying on top of the competition. So that's where we use market data. We look at competition, and then we put that into the data model, and then we're able to see how we stack up against Dell, right? Can y'all see the screen?
Yes,
Or-
you can.
Okay. So you can kind of see what HP is all about. So we kind of split it into 4 different parts: the data storage, compute, networking, and software. So you can think of like compute as, this is the actual server, right? This is the actual server that actually customers use. So like Bank of America, Walmart, those kind of big Fortune 500 companies. But we also deal with small companies too, like a school, right? Because the data has to go somewhere, right? So you put it in a server. But there's also big companies, like we even partner with the government, the NSA. We partner with all of them. And then you can think of networking. That's more like, actually, we've partnered with the Golden State Warriors. So we have Aruba. That's just a networking company that we bought. So we did an acquisition with them when we bought the rights and everything from Aruba. So this is more like networking in terms of like IoT, or like the internet, going there and creating apps. And then the data storage and software, we have a new initiative where we have an as a service model. And I'm sure you've probably heard, or a good example is like Netflix, right? You pay what, $10 a month, and you get and you don't have to like manage any of the data. You don't have to manage like the movies or anything. And they just, they have this data center, and you just pay $10, and then you have access to everything while they manage everything. So we kind of have that kind of model where we say, okay, because from a company standpoint, to build a server and manage it, that can cost a lot. So that's where we created Green Lake, where we're able to manage the data for them, and as a service model. So we only bill them whatever they consume. So we manage all their data. We have our own data center, data warehouse, and we manage everything while they focus on the business. So that's kind of what these 4 different pillars are. So if we go into like Green Lake, you can think of, it's a cloud platform like AWS. That's definitely one of our competitions. So we have this big data center, and then we're able to migrate their data. They might be on a local on-premise server, right? And then we migrate all their data to the cloud, and then we manage everything from from the infrastructure to, if something breaks, or if they have questions about anything about the data. So we manage all of that. So it's really ever changing. And then I see, Richard, are you there? I was meaning to get to you too. Are you still on here?
Yes,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. What questions do you have? For me or Adriana? It can be for both or individually, it doesn't matter.
So I would like to ask, do you guys use programming a lot?
Yeah, so we use tools like Python, because you can pretty much use Python in anything, but we also use R. So R is a statistical programming language where you can do like forecasting. You can build some crazy data models with using R. So those are mostly what we use, but we leverage tools like Power BI, because we centralize. So we have kind of like an app where it has all the different reportings for whatever stakeholders are looking at our data. So we use Power BI along with Excel and push the data into our data model. And then we use Python and R to leverage like, machine learning or forecasting or whatever analysis that we're doing. Those are mostly what we use. But if you learn one language, you can learn anything. So I'm sure you probably are learning MATLAB or, even Excel, right? Most of us kind of start at Excel, and then you just kind of build from there. If you learn one, then you can learn anything. I think if you're a math major, you can learn any language that you want. But the key thing is leveraging your soft skills like communication, presentation skills, so you can talk to the business stakeholders, because they don't know for the most part, like it's you're speaking gibberish to them if you're talking about the code to build. They want to just know, okay, what do I need to, what pricing do I need to take? That's where you come in, and you're like the bridge between the programming side and then the business. That's where you kind of come in. So,
All right. Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Would you recommend this for the resumes, that they put programming every language?
So the top languages I would say that they should know is definitely Python, definitely SQL too, because you have to query. I mean, you can query in Python too, but it's definitely important for students to have the basic knowledge of SQL, how to pull data, how do you read it, how do you view the data, how do you edit a data warehouse, how do you create that, how do you create relationships like different joins and the logic. I would think of, if I had to refer SQL in terms of like math, think of like SQL as, remember when y'all were learning like set theory? It's the exact same thing. So you have your Venn diagram, and on each side is a table. So, like the middle part, you would translate that into SQL like an inner join. It's the exact same thing. SQL is literally a set theory. Like, so if you know set theory, you can learn SQL in terms of the logic. It's just the syntax is a little bit different. I see new faces. Is that Audrey? Is that a student? Audrey Tador?
Yes.
I don't have any questions. I'm just listening. Thank you.
Okay. Are you a junior? You're a math major, correct?
Yes, I'm a junior in terms of when I'll graduate. Yes.
Gotcha. Cool. So do you have any questions, Ty, or anything that's on your mind?
This question is specifically, well, it's individually for you and Adriana. The first collaborative project you had, like how long did that take to complete, if you can remember? Because I know you guys have projects all the time. You have multiple projects at the same time. But if there was one that like stood out that you remember, maybe like the first time you joined HPE and it was a collaborative project, because that's one thing that our students don't necessarily do a lot. As being a math major, there's not much collaboration, in group projects. And so I kind of want them to get an idea, a feel about how to transition into that once they start their role in a company. Like what does that mean? How much time did it take? And, how is it different from, doing these singular projects that they have?
Do you want to go first, Adriana, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Yeah, so definitely collaboration is key. And it's funny because Adriana and I were just talking about this either earlier today or yesterday. To kind of get to where you want to go, you need other people. Yes, you might have the head knowledge in terms of the technicality, the programming and all that, but you definitely still need to collaborate with other people to get insight and feedback. And then also you might branch other ideas off of each other. So for Adriana and I, like I mentioned earlier, we pretty much talk every day, and whether that's an IM chat, email, or through Zoom or Teams. So we're all constantly communicating with each other, coming up with ideas. And kind of piggybacking with your question, one of the first things, so we've been working with each other for about 10 months, surprisingly. It kind of flew by on our new team. And I think the first thing that we worked on is we were kind of creating a master. So we were creating a master SKU list. So HP, there's so many products within a product. So you can have a DL360, but then that's just the server, right? That's just with the chassis, that's just the raw server, right? But then when you start adding, you want to build an entire solution, that's where it can kind of get complicated. And that's like HP's model can be kind of complex in the sense you can have different options that you attach to it. You can have different solutions. So nobody really had like a master SKU list of all the SKUs and all the different combinations. So that's where Adriana and I came in and we partnered together to create a SKU list of all the different combinations of configurations. And I think that it took us a couple months, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we started probably in February, and then I think we finished in like May. It took like all of spring to kind of finish that. That's one of the big accomplishments that we kind of did together, kind of building that foundation.
Yeah. And most of our projects, I think that a lot of the things that we have are living projects. So meaning that we still work on them, we refresh them. So it took us about a month to get one dashboard, have it running, and then we're updating it, improving it. So it it's very interesting. My first role at HP was very individual. And I would do my thing. I had a file and I would update it. And then we would share, in the team, we would share, update this formula, do this, do that. And then I moved to a different role. And it was where I started working with other people. So I had one project where I had to create something that would consolidate everything for one organization. So I had to work with a lot of people. And it took me months. And I would think it's done. And then somebody would say, oh, but we need to add this and that. And it was like, my whole life is this file. And, but it's really interesting because it's living, it's kind of growing and improving. And then on the weekend, I would say, oh, I know, I'll improve it this way or that way. And I think that then we started working together. And it's even worse because since we're all I would say we have a very vivid imagination and we're very creative. We come up, like Jordan said, we get into these rabbit holes where we say, oh, you know what? We should see A, B, and C. And all of a sudden we have like 20 new items that we didn't even think about before. But then it becomes a really great, it has a really great outcome because it's a very insightful thing. So when we go and present it and share it with other people, it's really satisfying when they say, this is really helpful, this is great, this is very insightful. So to go back to the question, I think that it took us about a month or 2 months, in several projects, but they're living projects. So as I said, we still update them. I'm knocking on Jordan's door like, is it updated yet? We just want to see how it's doing, so it's very dynamic, like we said in the beginning.
Yeah, we're constantly optimizing the model. So I think it was calculus 3, I think. Remember those optimization questions that y'all had on the exams? It's literally like that in the real world. But the real question is, how do we know it's actually optimized? That's where we're trying to kind of figure out, how do we know it's the best model? So that's why we're constantly doing what if analysis, doing a regression to kind of keep predicting and then constantly making the model better.
I do have another question. I'm unmuted, right? I can't really see right now. Yeah.
No, you're in. Yeah.
Okay. So like, how many individuals in management do you regularly interact with on any given project? I know that varies, but if you could say normally, the normal course of things, how many individuals in management do you work with, and how often?
I would say that for creating what we do, we usually don't, we work with our manager, but everything we produce is gonna be at a high level of exposure, meaning it goes from our manager to either senior managers or VPs or even the CEO. So it's like, I never prepare something that's going to be just for me or for somebody else's. No, it's always like a big pressure because it's like, the VPs are going to see this. And it depends on the role, of course. I think that, first of all, we have a great leader who allows us to have a voice and to get that exposure. So she leads by making others shine. So, and she shines through them. So that's the first great thing that we have. But also, I think that where we are, a lot of things are happening right now. And we are a very big, an important part of the organization. So we get a lot of exposure. So I didn't even know. And a lot of people that we go to meetings with, and that we show our reports to our senior managers or directors and things like that. So it's very, I think it would be most of the time that we have
So
to.
essentially being at the top of your game every time.
Yes, of course, all the time.
That's right.
Yeah, you definitely get that visibility. And I will also say to the math students, so at HP in particular, we're on the sales side. So we help make the decision to the stakeholders on the pricing that we should price our products. But then there's also supply chain. So before I got into this role, I was in supply chain doing supply chain analytics. Then you have you work with engineers, you can get into financing, or even even though you won't be using math every day, but there's engineers that are a part of the sales team. So they have the engineering knowledge of how to build a solution in terms of a server, and then they actually talk to the customers. So like I was mentioning earlier, just because you have a math degree, doesn't mean actually you can become a teacher or academia or even like finance. You can pretty much do whatever you want. So I would definitely say my advice is to keep your options open and really just enjoy the journey, right? I know y'all about to probably get into the finals and everything, and definitely just kind of enjoy the journey of not only being at college, but just your entire career. Because I started in insurance and now I'm in tech, right? And I thought I was going to be this professor. I was going to go to grad school, do all this stuff. And then I think her name was Dr. Almas. Dr. Almas.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, she was here for the first session. I think she had to leave after that.
Yeah. When I took that survey of math class, I didn't have anything lined up, which, I was just like, I have this degree. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I think that's when she mentioned, you should try actuary. And I was like, what the heck is actuary? I don't even know what that means. Right. So that's when I kind of started expanding my horizon in terms of looking into other parts that I can do, use the math degree. And so that's when I started in insurance. And then I was like, let me try tech and see what happens. So, and this is definitely where you still use the analytics side, but you're also close to the business as well. So you still talk to the stakeholders. We've even talked to the VP, right? We've talked to high level stakeholders that actually manage the entire business of the company, which is great for networking too.
Any other questions from those participating? Let's see, who else? Who else have we ever heard from?
Are you guys both working from home currently? I think Jordan, you were saying that you had maybe a combination schedule, or you're. I mean, last time I talked to you, but maybe you're now mainly from home.
Yeah. So since the pandemic, before the pandemic, we had this hybrid model where you can come into the office and you can work from home too. But since the pandemic hit, and actually we were in the process of moving to a new site in spring by ExxonMobil, then the pandemic happened. So everybody was at home besides like the site engineers, the people that actually build the servers or do testing. So they actually have to come in, but everybody else was at home. And the CEO now pretty much has everybody working from home. And in early 2022, now the headquarters is actually coming down here. Once the site opens, we'll still have that hybrid model. So for me, I will be working from home, but also whenever the team, so like whenever Adriana and I partner together and she comes to the States, then we'll come into office and partner together.
Yeah, and it's the same here. We are, I mean, some people have to go to the office, but the rest of us are at home. And for example, I plan on going probably once or twice a month just to get close to everyone, right? Because you still miss, but it's basically going to see friends
Yeah.
and networking, because you still need to feel familiar. But I am more on the staying at home side, just because it takes a lot of time to get to the office back here, and it's wasted time. But and I think that our company is a great example of how creativity can exist without having to be in a specific building, right? We create awesome reports, and there's people in Austin, in Houston, in Costa Rica, in Mexico, right? So but it's still, you still need that contact, and I think that that's very important. But right now we're all stationed at home.
Sounds amazing.
It is, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I
been a
don't
good
think
experience.
it's a great experience. I now get to have lunch, dinner, breakfast with my kids, and that for me is very important. I
Yes.
understand when some people need to go to the office, so having that freedom is what makes it amazing. So, if I get a new job opportunity somewhere else, my first thought would be, do I have to go? Because if I have to drive there, and
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know, I'd rather stay here.
That's
So,
right.
the
yeah.
Houston traffic is crazy. Yeah, everybody knows. It's just crazy here. And then also,
Yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
go ahead. No. So I was just gonna say, um, definitely if y'all have any more questions, I know Audrey, you didn't have any questions right now, but feel free. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm sure Adriana as well. And I'll have my contact. We'll send it over to Ty. So if y'all ever have any questions, and I'm comfortable with setting, like, one-on-ones if you want to do stuff like that. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
And to learn
Yes.
more about your internship program too.
Oh,
That would be
yeah,
good. You and I can talk about that, Jordan. But I
yeah.
just one odd question. Like, has there ever been a time that you've been in a meeting, that you've been presenting, and you've walked away not knowing what you're supposed to do? And if so, how do you fix that? How do you rectify that situation?
I'll let Adriana go first on that one.
Oh, well, I mean, I worked for over 20 years, so I can tell you that has happened to me. I've been in moments where I say, I don't know what to do. I really don't know. And when I was young, when I was just out of college, I remember one day I just locked in a bathroom and I wanted to cry. And I said, like, oh my God, what do I do? Right? Because we demand so much of ourselves that it turns out that you go to school, you learn so much, but you get to work and you don't always use everything that you learned, right? And they ask you for something. It's like you learn blue, green, and red, and then they ask you to produce purple, and you're like, how do I make this, right? How do I do it? And I was very overwhelmed. And I ended up figuring out what to do, and I did it wrong. And my boss said, and she was from economics and I wasn't, and she was like, this is wrong. And I said, well, I didn't know what to do. And she told me, just ask me. And but that was 20 years ago, and it still happens to me. And I learned that it's okay to do it wrong. Just you need to realize if you're doing something wrong, realize it, go back, take a step back, fix it, and move on, right? It's okay to ask for help. It's okay. I like to ask people, okay, so I'm understanding that you're asking me to do this. Is that correct? Am I understanding correctly? There's no stupid question. There's no silly thing to ask, or you need everything that you need to ask to get it right. And you might come up with something that's different, but it also helps. So, it still happens to me sometimes right here in this role, because I moved from a different role that was a totally different experience. And I moved out of my comfort zone when I moved to sales. And every day, not every day, but a lot of times I say, like, I don't know. I've been in meetings when I have to say, I'm not sure. Let me ask my manager, or let me go back and check the information and I'll get back to you. And it's not wrong. The worst thing you can do is lie. But sometimes you just need time. We've been in meetings where Jordan says, you know what, I don't know, I can't fix this right now, give me some time to think about it. 12 hours later, he knows what to do and he gets the model working perfectly. Or I'll say, no, I'll stop thinking about this, I'll get back to it later because I need to figure out a way of getting it.
Right.
But maybe I won't know. And I ask for help, but I also go back and think about it and figure out better ways of doing it. So it's very common. And it's, if you're not going through that process, if you know, and I heard this from a mentor, when you're doing everything perfect, when you're doing everything right and you know it so easily, it's because you're way into your comfort zone and you need to move on to something else.
Yep, that's right. That's 100% right. I would definitely add on to that. Yeah, it's definitely okay to not know all the answers, right? And I know coming into like your first job, I know for me when I was coming into insurance, I had no idea what a premium and a claim is. And I remember going into, they kind of gave me the tour of everything. Okay, here's your manager, here's your desk, here's your laptop. Okay, and that was it. And that's all I got. And I had to figure out everything else. So I would say to that, ask as many questions as you can in terms of if you don't know anything, if you don't like know exactly what to ask, just like talk to your manager, have a one-on-one. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Communication is like the foundation to your success, and not just a career. I was saying life in general. To any relationship that you have, communication is one of the most important foundations that you can have. So if you're not talking to your manager about your challenges, how would he or she know how to help you? Because I would say a manager or even a professor, right? You're struggling in your class, right? They don't know how to help you, right? We can't read minds, or they can't read minds. So I would say, for where you are now, if you're struggling on a question or a concept, reach out to your professor, or if you have a mentor or anybody, just reach out. Like that. Sometimes we make it harder than it actually is. And this is actually good. Not actually knowing the answer is actually good because it's a challenge, kind of like what Adriana was saying. If you know all the answers, if you're like in a circle where you know everything, well, you're not really, you're probably in the wrong circle. You need to go be around people that actually know more than you or more experienced than you. And then that's when you start, that those challenges actually kind of make you better over time. Yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Do we have any more questions?
I have my favorite question.
Okay.
When you were going into the office, what percentage of your salary did you have to spend on a parking spot?
0, actually.
None.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But
this
I
is just
would
a
say,
thing to think about for all you people who are considering academia, because mine is more than 0%.
I hear grievances. I hear grievances.
you have a refined ear.
But I would add to that, gas probably a little bit different. Like when I was working in insurance, I used to work down in Memorial City, and I live in Spring. So you can imagine, even when I was driving to U of H campus, I had to leave early, and then all that traffic, it was definitely a hassle. So I do thank HP for letting us work from home, because that was definitely easier on my end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us about your experiences and
yes, and
daily life and what it takes, and the issues that you may have, and the boundaries that you may reach, and how to get over those things. We really do appreciate that. So everyone, thank them. Thank you all. Adriana.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Now we're going to have the Pi Mu Epsilon induction ceremony, and Catherine Wong is going to present that for us. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, guys.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for having me, and I will start. Do I have permission to share my screen? Or?
Yes, you do. I just gave you co-host permission. Well, hold on 1 second, because you have 2 accounts. Which one is it? Catherine Wong or Catherine Wong?
Yeah, do Catherine Wong, because that's my laptop.
Okay, great. Do you have it now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right, so let's move this over. Okay, let's begin. So for any of the PME inductees who were inducted this semester, we have your certificates now. I believe they have been mailed to you, but because we didn't have an in-person induction ceremony, we will give you the opportunity to take pictures with your certificates with your fellow inductees. The date has not been set yet, but make sure to keep that under your radar if you're interested in having an in-person celebration as well. So the first inductee is Zareen Arifin. And if I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. Aaron Taylor Attar. Jonathan Bletcher. Kevin Juan Aguilar Cano. Ray Christian Leticia Estrada. Paola Najera. Hung Nguyen. Nguyen Quinn Nhu Pham. Yassine Syed. Audrey Kelly Tedora. Michelle Torres. And those are all of our inductees for the semester. Congratulations everyone for being inducted. And I will stop sharing my screen. And thank you for having me, everyone.
Congratulations. Okay. I think that concludes the departmental meet and greet. I really appreciate everyone for participating. We had some really good speakers. We had some really good insight and really good information. And of course, you guys enjoy your weekend. I know I cannot believe we're like 4 minutes before 5 o'clock, so we're doing great. But yes, again, I really appreciate everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend. Okay. Thanks, guys, and see you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem, Andreas.
Thank you, Ty.
You're welcome.